Watch this.
We need to get the basics right again.
For 25 years, since I was in my early 20s, I have engaged in the city.
Major debate last night. Candidates for the Boise mayoral race squared off face-to-face live. A major topic, Boise's police department and controversy on the chief of police. We're locking in on a high-priority topic with candidate insight, and we have an answer to a question that came up last night.
Yeah, so they didn't charge me with anything. They suspected me of aiding the terrorists in the northern part of the country.
An Idaho man is back home after being held in Mozambique for nearly a year. The government there took his passport, leaving him stuck. Andrew Bartline caught up with him to share the story of how he made it home.
A lot of stories, a lot of hauntings.
It's getting spooky out there. Only one way to stay safe. That's eating candy. Right? That's what the candy is for, right? Well, we're taking a spirited tour around Boise to meet the spirits, the haunts, the hoots. Stop one on our tour is ahead, so strap in, get the candy. It's 2:08 time. Welcome to the 208. I'm Joe Paris. Brian Holmes will be back tomorrow. Okay, less than 2 weeks until the election, lots to get to. In Boise, as you know, big race is for the city's mayor. Last night, we hosted two candidates for an hour-long debate. Current Mayor Lauren McLean and one of her challengers, retired Boise Police Chief Mike Masterson. The full event is up online right now, an hour-long debate with no commercial interruption. You can take a look at the KTVB YouTube channel. That's the easiest way to go watch that. And we dug into zoning, growth, housing, the homeless. And there was also a lot of talk about the police chief situation in Boise. As you recall, former Chief Ryan Lee was fired after a collection of controversies. And Lee was selected by McLean in the very beginning of her tenure, which has been a major talking point for the Masterson campaign. And we got to see the candidates finally go head-to-head on this topic. Let's take a look.
I wasn't involved in the process. The mayor did ask me to write questions that she felt was appropriate in asking each candidate. It boiled down to two people. I thought the one person that was selected didn't have the significant management experience that was necessary to run a city, didn't understand command staffs, didn't understand cultures, whereas the other candidate from a large city in Texas had significant background experience, significant community experience, and obviously was the better choice. But it's the mayor's call in the end.
I'm curious, why didn't you speak up then if you have these concerns?
Because I wasn't asked to and it wasn't my place.
Okay.
Process to hire a police chief included the last administration that opened the position, a search firm that collected the positions, a lot of people that volunteered their time, so really dismissing their time by saying it was just me, to provide feedback, and presented to me the options, and I chose one.
Mr. Masterson.
That issue came up in our debate the other night where the mayor said that the process was initiated by her predecessor. I don't think that that's true. I have talked to her predecessor. Her predecessor was in the fight for his life in a mayoral re-election. He didn't have time to open that selection process. I believe it was done after the mayor took office. We need to sit down and we need to talk about how Americans support the police officers instead of demoralizing them by casting aspersions on them when a rogue, troubled captain was making racist remarks. We don't blame an organization of 300 men and women that are the police officers. We work with them. We don't cast aspersions upon them and suspicions.
Mayor McLean, I want you to respond, if you'd like to the claims from Mr. Masterson. I'm curious, do you think that you labeled, or do you think you kind of threw everyone in one basket in the situation with the white supremacy?
You know, I appreciate that, because let's not forget that we were all rattled by the news that an officer that had been in the department for over 20 years, promoted multiple times, the first time by my opponent, didn't just speak about racism, he wrote in a white national circuit and was showing up at a conference. He wrote about his fellow officers of color. Now, it was important that we hire someone that could take a look to see if this person had impacted our officers, to see if this person had impacted the public.
Honestly, we could spend the entire show breaking down just that little piece, but there were some questions that I saw after the debate in terms of who hired the chief of police, who was responsible for Ryan Lee being the chief of police in Boise. And I did get the contract that was in terms of searching for the new chief of police, and we got that from the city today. So let's all look at this here together. As we pull it up on screen, you'll see this yellow highlight come up. It's going to be the date for November 1st, 2019. I know that's small there, but that's exactly when the contract was signed for the search for the new chief of police. So that was actually right before the election in 2019 when Mayor Dave Beater was still in office. So did the mayor, meaning Mayor McLean, select the right person? And in her words, it didn't work out. She did get to make the final decision. Mr. Masterson, though, is clear that he didn't like the pick. So what about the other person? We heard there was two major finalists. Well, McLean said she essentially had two choices. We do know that Joseph Chacon, the one that was there as a finalist with Lee, he was working for the Austin Police Department, and he actually left the department there after some controversies. And if you want to know more about what's on your ballot, you're in luck. Head over right now to ktvb.com. The voter guide is ready. You can also text the word VOTE to your number on your screen, 208-321-5614. We'll send you that voter guide instantaneously right to your phone. Which brings me to a question from you at home. Well, it's more of a statement, but I still wanted to address it either way. Here's the comment that we got in our inbox this morning. It says, quote, "You left incumbent Lucy Willits, District 5, off of Boise City Council on your list of candidates on the voter guide." So the viewer, Christy, who wrote that in, you're correct, sort of. District 1 is likely what they meant, not District 5. But there's a reason that it was left off of our voter guide and the ballot if that's your district. Lucy Willits is running in an uncontested race for city council, so we didn't put her in the election guide and she won't show up on the ballot. But we did add her to our voter guide, Christy, to help with some context, so we appreciate the feedback. And speaking of voting, Republicans unanimously elected Representative Mike Johnson as the House Speaker of the United States House earlier today. That gets the House back on track after weeks of political chaos. And as we have followed all of this, Idaho's delegation in the House, they've had different views from time to time. But today, both Representatives Mike Simpson and Russ Fulcher, they did vote for Representative Johnson. Here's what they had to say. We'll start with Simpson first. He says, quote, "I had the opportunity to speak with Speaker Johnson this morning about critical issues facing Idaho, including the importance of solving our agricultural workforce crisis, something we talked about here, and passing appropriation bills to avoid a government shutdown. I am confident Speaker Johnson will work with all members of our party to pass our single subject spending bills and bring legislation to the floor that would advance Idaho priorities in Congress." And Representative Russ Fulcher agrees, partially in his statement here on Twitter. He says, "I supported Mike Johnson for Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Mike has demonstrated his conservative commitment to America, and House Republicans are ready to unite under his leadership for the American people." Will it stick? Will it work? We will find out. Of note, President Biden did call Mr. Johnson to congratulate him this afternoon. So it's back to business, and boy, a lot of business for the House to get to. Sticking with politics back home in Idaho, just weeks after 6 members of the Ada County Republican Central Committee, they abruptly resigned, well, 6 new members are now in as a replacement. Ada County Republicans tweeted that they had a special meeting last night to elect the new officers, and they said that none of the officers were opposed. The new vice chairman, Ryan Spoon, tweeted this picture of the 6 new members. They are Chairman Thad Butterworth, first Vice Chairman Spoon, second Vice Chairman Sue Gaston, and third Vice Chairman Scott Cleveland, and Treasurer Sue Hoffer, and State Committee Woman Cheryl Hurd. So we'll see how this goes. Of course, they're just starting up, and of course, as a follow, we'd love to catch up with them soon.
We know Ryan is innocent. There's really no reason for him to be held at this point. And honestly, just detainment like this, it's a surprise to us. Yeah, they're as puzzled as we are on this, because it doesn't make sense. It's out of character.
As of right now, there has not been a charge. It's just accusations.
And it remains just that, an accusation. We told you nearly a year ago, the Mozambique government detained local Mission Aviation Fellowship pilot Ryan Coher. He is suspected of aiding a terrorist group in North Mozambique through his work with MAF. Now, Coher and the organization have kept their message very consistent. He was flying supplies to an orphanage in the area. His family, MAF, and the United States government fought for months to guarantee Ryan's release from prison, but it took even longer for his safe return home. Andrew Bartline has the story.
A mission is really just a plan until people or someone answers the call.
We're committed to following that call, regardless of the cost.
Ryan Coer is an MAF pilot, a job requiring the full support of his wife, Annabelle, and their 2 kids.
They're 4 and 2.
Just old enough to notice when something or someone is missing.
So I was detained on November 4th, 2022.
The Mozambique government suspects Ryan was helping terrorists in the north half of the country.
I was flying a routine flight to deliver some goods to an orphanage.
It's a nation that lacks infrastructure to truck and transport supplies. It's left crucial areas behind.
There's a lot of isolated villages that are cut off from services such as doctors. With the current conflict going on, the need for our services has increased as road travel isn't always safe through some areas.
A government on high alert closed in on Ryan.
When I arrived at an airport to receive these goods from the 2 South African orphanage volunteers, we were wrongfully detained.
No official charges, but an open investigation. It landed him in 4 prisons for more than 4 months.
Unfiltered water, no mosquito nets.
Himself, too,
So
completely isolated.
you sleep on the floor, a piece of bread and some hot tea in the morning, and then a pretty substantial dinner in the evening. It was enough to live off of.
The bare minimum, only bumped up by the compassion of locals.
My friends are Mozambicans.
Friends on the MAF staff.
Brought me clothes and mattresses and toiletries as well as food during that time. And so I'm really grateful for their love for me and their support.
Love Ryan needed, because after his release in March, he still couldn't leave the country.
They took my passport and my phone and some of the money that I had in my backpack, as well as some flight documents that I was carrying.
Through the work of the U.S. government and MAF, Ryan finally caught his break.
His birthday is September 23rd.
The same time a judge finally made the call.
Yeah, it was a great present.
Yeah.
Ryan's ticket home.
I personally felt like a load has been lifted after waiting in Mozambique to finally get my passport back.
But this mission, Ryan's calling, he's not done yet.
Right now, we're looking at going back to Mozambique mid next year. You know, I love the people there. I love serving there. We both believe that this is still what God has called us to do in our lives.
And while Ryan is back home in the States, he is not entirely cleared of these, again, just accusations at this point, even a year later. The investigation is still ongoing. It's also worth knowing that Coer and MAF credit Idaho Senator Jim Risch for helping get Ryan's passport back. As you know, Joe, I don't need to tell you this. Risch is on the Foreign Relations Committee. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate the help.
No problem.
And he worked directly with the Mozambique government to say, hey, let's get this guy home, give him his passport back. He's out of jail. But that whole process was slow. Again, taking almost a full year and still ongoing. He's not cleared yet.
Did you guys talk about conditions and stuff much, about what it was like when he was, I guess, in jail in Mozambique?
Yeah, so the first 3 prisons he was in, and he used the word prison, not jail.
Oh, okay.
He had like a bamboo pad to sleep on. There were no beds. They were really sleeping on floors. Again, he said unfiltered water. Weirdly enough, the maximum security prison he was in was actually the best conditions he was in.
Oh, okay.
He got a bed when he went there, and so he joked. He's like, I guess that's like the Ritz-Carlton of Mozambique prisons. He had a sense of humor about it, but it is a very serious situation.
Yeah.
Very happy to be home. His kids, of course, happy as well, too.
Well, incredible conviction. He says he's going back. Okay.
Yep.
Andrew Bartline reporting. We'll be right back.
All sorts of activity is claimed here, you know.
Politics are out of the way, so let's get into some really scary stuff. We are heading to Fort Boise Military Cemetery on this dark and stormy night. We have a story of haunts and spirits ahead. Something that is scary in your area? Maybe a scary legend or story? Maybe some great decorations? Tell us about it, or tell us really about anything we talk about here on this show. Whatever it is, you can send us a text message to this number, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208 so we know it's from you. And yes, we read all of these privately, and we'll get to some of them publicly at the end of the show.
How many times have you heard the phrase, it's that time of year, spooky season, or Halloween is just days away? Well, I think we've said it here on the 208 multiple times, but did you know that Boise is considered the spookiest city in Idaho? Well, that's according to Vivinit.com. Whatever that is. So clearly it holds a lot of weight, but we'll take it. They might be onto something because Mark Iverson co-wrote a whole book about how haunted our capital city really is. And Mark got his master's in history from Boise State and founded the company Ida History. So he knows a few things about Idaho history. And Mark and Jeff Wade recently came out with the book Haunted Boise, and it recounts multiple ghoulish tales that many of you might know, but they also set the record straight. And we wanted to hear the best haunted history stories. So starting today, we're going to take you on a journey to 4 different paranormal paradises to find out from Mark if they really are haunted. Our first stop on the haunted tour, Fort Boise Military Cemetery.
It's kind of an eerie spot.
It is, you know, if the weather's right or the time of night's right, you know, it's plenty a good atmosphere for the creation of, you know, these things in our mind. We are at the Fort Boise Military Cemetery on Mountain Cove Road. The people here tell the story of Fort Boise, and by doing that, they tell the story of, you know, homesteading, establishing a town, the military after the Civil War, and so there's just so many ways you can go with it. So that's really the attachment to these haunted history stories for me.
Where does this rank when it comes to like activity?
Oh, it's pretty high. I would say it's one of the most, at least far as people's experiences, it's pretty significant up there for Idaho. Sitting on that bench over there by the monolith, is supposed to be the spirit of a boy who is seen sitting there. And you know, you have some children that are buried here. A Major Patrick Collins, who died in 1878, falling off a horse. His 4 sons died in the first weeks of January 1877 of some sort of fever and are buried here. So, you know, that's a possible route to the child that's supposedly seen on this path and that bench.
Does he just sit there?
He just sits there. That's the claim, that you just see him kind of sitting, and then he'll just disappear, you know. There's supposed to be a soldier up near the flagpole at the top of the cemetery that is seen, you know, in the twilight hours. Shadows darting between the tombstones, and also disembodied voices, you know, things like that. All sorts of activity is claimed here, you know. Sergeant Peter Vogel, which that monument is for right there, went through all those battles of the Civil War, including Antietam and Gettysburg, and he comes out here after the war, and he ends up getting shot breaking up a dispute off of 8th Street at a brothel. He was a wonderful officer. He started a library at the fort. Like, he had this whole life. Maybe he's the soldier up there. I don't know, you know. A lot of stories, a lot of hauntings.
And if you listen closely enough, you might actually hear the story.
Right, yeah. They might tell you. They might tell you themselves if you get lucky enough, right?
Kevin Esslinger edited that piece. Absolutely spooky. So next time you're playing softball at Fort Boise or taking a hike in the military reserve, stop by the cemetery and take a seat on the bench and let us know if you see anything. If you want, I got choked up. If you want some more haunted history, tune in tomorrow to learn how the Boise Little Theater became haunted.
Well, forget fall, right? We went straight to winter today as snow fell in the mountains this morning and continued off and on throughout the day. This is a look at Tamarack Resort from this afternoon where 4 inches had piled up and will likely add some more overnight tonight as we have a cold front that is marching across the Gem State this evening. It will continue to trigger precipitation as it comes through, and a few lingering snow showers could stick around into tomorrow morning in places like McCall, Stanley, and Haley. This is the potential overnight tonight for maybe 1 to 3 more inches, down to about 5,000 feet. Snow levels will continue to drop overnight, but the precipitation also tapers off. So that means a clearer but very cold start to the day tomorrow. In fact, a freeze warning is in effect for Thursday morning for much of the Magic Valley. We continue our winter weather advisory for the Central Mountains through early Thursday morning as well. And then after that, the temperatures really do become the big weather headline for the Treasure Valley. We expect the possibility of frost tomorrow morning. Wind, though, might keep us from getting right to the freezing mark by Friday morning, then on into the weekend. Those morning lows will be very cold. Our first hard freeze of the season coming our way by Saturday morning, so just be ready for that. Temperatures tomorrow, as far as the highs go, we may not even get up to 50 in Boise, just mid-40s in the Magic Valley with a very cold wind, and just mid-30s for McCall and Stanley. Silver lining here, though, for tomorrow is that it will be chilly. Sunshine, at least it'll be some sunshine tomorrow, but you throw in that wind, it'll feel cool. So again, temperatures upper 40s for tomorrow. We climb a degree or 2 for Friday, and with a little less wind on Friday, this might be a more enjoyable day than tomorrow, but we have another weak cool front that slides across the region Friday afternoon. That will bring in another shot of cooler air for Saturday. There's those temperatures Saturday morning in just the mid-20s in Boise, highs in the upper 40s. As we head into next week and Halloween on Tuesday, we stay dry but cooler than average with highs in the mid-50s through the middle of the week.
All right, let's get to some of your comments to end the program. Take a look at the board here. This person says, didn't new Ada County Republican officer Scott Cleveland run for the Senate as an independent last November? Does that make him not a real Republican based on the state party platform? That's from Michelle. Michelle, I appreciate the comment. Yeah, Scott Cleveland, actually, he was on our Viewpoint program. We had a really interesting chat. Mr. Cleveland, hopefully we'll talk to him soon in his new role here. All right, this person says, I think it's a real shame that the only way that you can make the debate stage is based on the money you raise, which as someone who could be good for our city and our state may not be qualified. We did have to draw the line somewhere, but we're happy to continue that conversation into the future. Again, thanks everyone for watching the debate last night. And this person asked if I got spooked. Yeah, I was spooked. More spooking tomorrow.